think it really just comes all down to responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's my biggest thing. If there's one word I could leave for anybody on earth to break down and think about, it is 100% responsibility every single day of the week, and it's because the meaning in life comes from responsibility. That's where the meaning comes from, because it doesn't matter what happens to you, it doesn't matter what your parents have done to you, it doesn't matter if you have anger issues or if you whatever your problems are that are thrown your way that aren't your fault. It's not your fault that they're there. It is now your responsibility. And the difference in people who have meaningful lives are those who decide to take responsibility for it and those who don't.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 24th episode of the Conscious Cast.
Featuring the Wet Shirt Gang.
The Wet Shirt Gang, as it is pouring outside, but we're still here bringing this content for you all. So, with us, we got a very special guest, my boy Jason, who I met a couple weeks ago, and we have we think very much the same along with Cole, and we thought having him on the podcast could bring a lot of value, not only to the podcast, but to you guys, as he, as an individual, has a very advanced intellect as compared to the population we are currently living in, and we thought, sharing this message would ultimately create a more conscious planet, create a more aware state of human beings, and that is pretty much the entire premise of this podcast. So with him here, we will be able to fulfill that mission. And so why don't you introduce yourself, my man?
My name is Jason, obviously. Grew up in Wethersfield, born in 2001. I was actually born in Arizona. We moved here when I was like 1 or 2 years old. Grew up in Wethersfield. Honestly, grew up kind of like a shithead, which is I know we talked about that all the time. I wasn't a nice human being. I was very, ironically, unconscious growing up until a couple years ago. I just wasn't nice to people. I was very deeply insecure. It came from family issues and things of that nature, but regardless of whose fault it was, it's just the way it was. I grew up with fake smiles and friends that hung out with me because they felt guilty hanging out with me. I wasn't the worst, but in terms of being a good friend, not so much. And so it really kind of hit me, I think, senior year of high school. And I just kind of woke up and I understood that, maybe if everybody else is annoyed with me, that it's not everybody else. It's probably me. And so I had my fair share of family bullshit going.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. You can say whatever you want.
I had my fair of family bullshit going on, and when all that went down, I was still in that mentality of it's their fault, it's the world's fault, it's everybody else's fault except for mine, and woe is me mentality. And then eventually kind of hit me. I was talking to my friend. He was like, listen, man, I love you, but you've been going your whole life blaming everybody else for all of your problems, and that's why you still have your problems. And he said, this is your first opportunity on a clean slate with your biggest problem you've ever had with all this family bullshit, to take responsibility and to start your journey of fucking bettering yourself and making your life what you want it to be, and not just blaming other people for what it is. And so from then, I really haven't looked back. So I'm a psychological science. It's psychological science major here. It's just psychology. But yeah, since around senior year, I've been just completely obsessed with the mind, building my mentality, becoming more conscious, becoming more present, and everything that entails. And within that process, I kind of realized, not only do I understand it pretty well, but I felt like I had a good understanding of how to help other people reach their full potential as well. And so getting from there, I started talking to kids around our age and kids that were younger than me, how I started helping them learn how to get out of where they were and how to start living a better life that they would be more happy and fulfilled with being. And like I said, I haven't looked back since.
So, I think a big thing you touched on right there is each and every one of us, and Cole will touch on this as well. We've each kind of I call it a spiritual awakening, or just a shift in awareness where you kind of have this realization and you step back and you're just whoa, man, the life I've been living is not how I should really be living. And with that, kind of a couple things that you touched on was reflection, right? Contemplation of like your own life. Like how am I impacting others? How am I in my life going to help others? Like what am I placing my attention on, and how is that affecting my life, and how is it affecting others?
Yeah.
And so my question to you is like, when you had that shift in awareness, when you had that kind of, I think you described it to me that one time when you were on the golf course, right? And you were just like, God is real, right?
Yeah.
Like from that point on, like what has your focus and concentration been since like that moment? I know obviously your habits are still there, right? And as you shift those habits from that point, like how did your like attention span, or I should say more so like your concentration of like what you placed your attention on shifted after that moment?
So I wouldn't say it was necessarily an attention shift. I would say it's more of a prioritization shift.
Okay.
And so I'm a Christian. I believe in God. But from that moment that when I was on the golf course, to give you a little recap of that, it was, so I grew up Catholic. You know, I got my sacraments. I went to CCD, but I didn't believe in God. I thought it was a load of bullshit. I thought that people believed in God because they were scared of death and wanted some sense of certainty in their lives, of the afterlife and heaven and whatnot. So I didn't believe it, but I went. But my friend Yvonne, who's a really big influence on me, he's a Christian, and he was kind of the person, like I said, that kind of got me to start working on myself. But in that moment when I was on the golf course, I worked at a golf course. I was working, and I was just contemplating my life and contemplating just kind of this whole personal development journey, and I began to realize that everything that's happened to me didn't actually happen to me, it happened for me. And in my eyes, whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever, in my eyes, God gave me the gift of being an asshole to these people growing up. God gave me the gift of all these family problems because of what it was going to help me grow into and who I can help get out of their own problems from those things. And when I had that realization, my priorities, as I was saying, shifted to, I got to put God first, because if God is gifting me these opportunities and God is giving me life, I need to put God and God's word first. And for me personally, when I say that, I don't mean the whole Bible and everything within its contents first. You know what I mean? I'm not anti-gay or any of the, like, I draw.
There's a lot of interpretation.
Which largely is misinterpretation.
Yeah,
exactly. Of course. But in my eyes, the overarching idea of Christianity is love. God is love. And you need to communicate and you need to live in a way that is loving. And when you look at the way Jesus lived his life, he gave everything for everybody else and did everything so that everybody else could have a better life. And I think when you start to prioritize that, when you start to prioritize helping other people, contributing, which comes in various ways, obviously, you not only does your life get better, but the whole world gets better. And so in that moment, I realized I realized it's time for me to start prioritizing putting God first. And it's weird to say that out loud. For some people, it doesn't land right. It doesn't sit right because, like, the whole word of God, it's a messy word. But whatever you believe in or don't believe in, putting love first is essentially what I realized in that moment.
Yeah. Now, not to make this a thing about, like, religion, but, like, me personally, and, like, you know, my parents didn't really enforce it, but my mom, you know, she's a believer. But me personally, realistically, looking at history, I can't necessarily get behind a God that so many atrocities have been committed in his name.
Yeah.
And additionally, like when I was a kid, I would occasionally pray.
Yeah.
But, you know, additionally, as I guess like with like my pain and anger, I kind of attribute that to him too. But it's like, you know, I can't believe necessarily in a God, you know, when my, I guess, power comes from the devil, I suppose. Because
what do you mean by that?
Like, my sin is wrath, and it's like that has irreversibly changed me. But it's like, you know, because I don't fly off the handle or anything, but that's something I have to consciously control and fight every day. That's why I go to the gym. It's partially why I love martial arts, because it's, you know, gives me an excuse to let off the steam. But it's like it taints that purity of the art, you know, because it's like there's the dichotomy, like there's me as a person, and then there's the anger, because I separate myself from it.
Right.
And like Cal said in one of the episodes, there's a difference between being angry and being anger. And for a large portion of my life, I was anger. And it was like, it wasn't so much, you know, me being an asshole to people, but it was like, fuck everybody that doesn't care about me.
Yeah.
You know, it was about like wanting to hurt them as like revenge.
Yeah.
And I was consumed by it for a long while. And it's like coming out of it and realizing like that's not who I really am. And like going back to martial arts is like that's provided me so much perspective. Because it's like, you know, my sensei and my uncle and like all of my classmates in judo like taught me so much about, you know, like the martial arts is pure because you can't hide anything in like a fight.
Right.
Because it's so pure. Like when one of my like sparring partners or classmates in judo was frustrated, you could tell, you could feel every emotion in their judo.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it so much, and that, like, because you can't hide anything. I feel like it's the purest form of expression because it's not about me versus you. It's about me versus me.
100%.
And additionally speaking to that, like, it's my perspective of it. Like, that's my perspective.
Right.
But the anger's perspective, you know, like the demon, it's about, like, hurting people to make myself feel better. And it's about unleashing you know that monster.
Yeah.
And it's like going back to the religion aspect, it's like that is wholly evil.
Yeah.
And it's like I question it. It's like, why would this God whose love is supposed to be unconditional place this hatred in a young boy, you know?
I think that's really interesting too, because similar to me, like back in my experience, like I was raised Christian, and I would pray, but I would always feel this disconnect between, like, similar to you, like how I would just feel this disconnect, in that, like, similar to how meditation has brought me that connection, to like whatever source is out there, right? Like Cole and I have both touched on this before. Like, we know it's out there, we don't know what the fuck it is. Like, it's some type of higher force, you know, like it's out there somewhere. But when I was like formally praying and, you know, just like following, I don't really even know how to put it, but like, I guess you could say that family pressure, that like to believe in God, even though I really never believed in like a humanized God. Like that's what I like, I've told you this before, that like I refer to God as existence, right? Like, and like everything in this absolute existence is God, including us. And like through meditation and just really having my own spiritual awakening and that shift in awareness, as I touched on earlier, I really like transformed my life, as like similar to you guys. Like, I started to control my own emotions. I started to, and when I say control my own emotions, I don't mean like, oh, I'm instantaneously happy, you know, like I mean more so,
it's not a switch.
Exactly. I mean more so controlling your response to external things, and like, because that's like
restraint.
That's like one of the few things we have control over, right? Or at least apparently.
Right.
Fucking, we can get into the neuroscience shit about that, but fuck that. All right. No. Yeah.
If anyone's gonna know about that, it's Jason.
Yeah. So
he can give us a
exactly. You guys studied neurons and crap like that. But, yeah, it's like if you have control over those external factors, right? Not external factors. If you control your response to those external factors, like shit can hit the fan out there, right? But then if you, let's just say it's terrible, right? It's going horrible. But if you're that one beacon of light within you. And like as Ralph Smart says, it only takes one candle to light 1,000 candles, right? And you just keep passing it along. And you are that single light that brings light to other people. But if you're just stuck in that constant negativity, right?
That's what the world will reflect to.
Exactly, that too. And it's like Friedrich Nietzsche says, it's like that herd mentality, right? And that's what he wants to break away from. He wants individuals to create their own philosophies, to reevaluate the world out there, because most of the values that they're throwing at you aren't actually values that you value.
Right.
They're just simple shit that you pick up and place on your back through conditioning. And it's like, this is a big question for you. And let me just check the time real quick, just so. Okay, yeah, big question for you. It's just like, once you had that that real true connection with God on that golf course, like,
did you find yourself reevaluating your own values in that moment? Like, when I mean values, I mean like, did a lot of values become apparent to you? Like, you became aware of a lot of things that you weren't aware of before?
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot you touched on there, but in that moment, I think it was just understanding my priorities and being conscious of what my priorities needed to be in order for me to live the best life I could, to grow as much as I could for me, and to help as many people as I possibly can. And again, I'm what am I, 3-4 years into this journey? This is nothing. In the span of time, nothing. But one thing I actually wanted to touch on there that you were talking about is responsibility. Because when you were talking about the candles and like how if you take care of yourself regardless of your external situation, and you can be the light that brings light to everybody else, I think it really just comes all down to responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's my biggest thing. If there's one word I could leave for anybody on earth to break down and think about, it is 100% responsibility every single day of the week, and it's because the meaning in life comes from responsibility. That's where the meaning comes from. Because it doesn't matter what happens to you. It doesn't matter what your parents have done to you. It doesn't matter if you have anger issues or if whatever your problems are that are thrown your way that aren't your fault. It's not your fault that they're there. It is now your responsibility. And the difference in people who have meaningful lives are those who decide to take responsibility for it and those who don't. Because if let's say you grow up and your parents don't give a shit about working out, and they let you eat chips and Oreos all day, and you have no sense of nutrition, you have no sleep schedule, your room's a fucking mess, you're a miserable loser, like you don't have real friends, whatever. And then you wake up your junior, senior year saying, damn, like, I'm in a hot fucking mess. You can either decide, okay, fuck my parents, fuck society, fuck all these people for not telling me, yada, 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 and stay where you are, or you can take responsibility. And the really, really cool thing about it is that simultaneously, when you take responsibility, not only does your life get better because you put yourself in the driver's seat, not anybody else or society, but you help other people put themselves in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Like that's a lot of like when people tell you are something, it you kind of are, unless it's like from a negative place, and then they're projecting to some degree. But I've been always told that I'm responsible, and I think that comes from my discipline from martial arts and everything.
100%.
But going back to the, it's your, like you said, responsibility. It's your responsibility to share your knowledge and wisdom of becoming better, and that's what this whole podcast is about. It's about sharing the knowledge, and it's like.
Knowledge.
Yeah, like a hot shit. But,
Exactly.
but yeah, it's like. Let me give you an example. This happened recently. Some guy, his blue chip was acting up at, Devil's Den. And he was trying to buy his food. And somebody asked, like the cashier asked if anybody wanted to pay for it. And it was kind of almost like an instinctual response. I just raised my hand. I walked up, I paid for the dude's food, and then the cashier was like, no, to pay. Because it was just a courtesy. And I was like, thank you. But it's like, you pay it forward, and it pays back.
Always.
And it's like that power
Always.
to give people, that, way to better themselves. That's a great power. And go with the Spider-Man quote, because it's evergreen, and it's with great power comes great responsibility.
100%.
Yeah, and like
It's true.
I'm very much a tough love guy.
Yeah.
I'm aggressive in my betterment of self and of other people, and a lot of times that's a little bit too much for people. I'm loud too. People always assume I'm Italian, even though I'm Latino. But
The White Rican.
the White Rican, yeah. But additionally, it's like sometimes people need a kick in the ass to get their shit together. But it's and that was with kind of my roommate. He's been stressed and feeling shitty, and I got him back in the gym, and he's been feeling great.
It's awesome. The thing sorry to interrupt. The thing I always think about when it comes to things like that is like the concept is called building rapport, and rapport essentially means that you are connecting with one person, right? Or with multiple people, right? And so a good example of rapport that you can see is like me and Cal right now, right? If you and I are having a conversation and I want to connect with you, I shouldn't be sitting like this. I shouldn't be sitting like this. I should be like this, right? Because you feel like we're similar in that aspect. And it's not even necessarily something you're conscious of, but that's just one way
opening up your body language
of rapport. But it goes into so many different aspects of life. Like when you're talking to your friend that needed a kick in the ass, right? You can get loud, you can get in his face, you can say, you need to fucking take responsibility. But there might be other people that could use that same message, the essence of your message, but in a different delivery. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I began to notice over the past couple of years is like, because that's how I was. I was all David Goggins mindset, like, quit being a fucking pussy, like, get after it, like, you should start working out and, like, take responsibility, because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, although that message in its essence is what everybody needs to hear, how you deliver it really matters.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to fall upon deaf ears if you try and deliver it the same way. Because it's like writing a package with the wrong address. It's not going to show up, and it's nothing that you say is actually going to fall into ears that are actually going to listen the right way.
Yeah.
And if you're going to rely on chance that you're going to come across another uptight, like if you were talking to me, telling me that kind of stuff, that's going to land. You know, that's going to fucking work for me, and I'm going to hear it, and I'm going to go after it. But if you're talking to somebody else who can't handle that, although what your advice is coming from a good place, and it's not necessarily anything that they shouldn't hear, it's not going to work. And I think the whole thing is rapport and influence. And if you want to develop that influence with somebody else, you need to speak to them in a way that actually works for them, not for you. You know what I'm saying? And so if I don't know, maybe that's something you might want to think about, because a lot of people need a kick in the ass, but it's how you kick them in the ass, you know?
Yeah, like when I want to call the gym, or like, I don't even know really anything, like, it's very, like, a lot of my, like, don't get me wrong, I love my friends, but there's Cole's one of those very few people who's like, fuck yeah, man, let's go, you know what I mean, like, and he's like, he wants to get after it, I'm like, let's fucking get it, you know what I mean, like, for the boxing cinematic, like, we did a couple, I don't know, like a month ago, Cole sent me, like, the fucking, the music that was going to be playing over it, and I was like,
yeah, I fucking
like,
I live for that.
But like, yeah, anything. Anyways, like, but that's aside to the point. Like a big thing you touched on there was communication, right? And I remember my communication professor last semester was like, if they don't understand the message or they're not inclined to listen to the message, it's bad communication. Like, flat out. Like,
that's the other thing I was thinking about too. When you said inclined, one of the most painful things I had to realize was, when I started this whole personal development sort of thing, self-improvement, when I started working on me, taking responsibility for my life, I was like, oh my God, like, I have these answers in my hand. Like, take responsibility, take care of your mental and physical health, start self-educating, cut out your shitty-ass friends, all these things that I'm assuming you guys understand. But you can't help somebody that doesn't want help.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't. But on top of that, one of the things, this is a quote that I heard from Jordan Peterson. It's a quote from the Bible, actually. And it says, do not cast pearls before swine.
I love that.
It's
I love that quote.
Once you understand that quote, you can help so many more people and help yourself. Because what it means is, do not cast pearls before swine. It essentially means, if somebody's not listening to you, if you're giving advice to somebody, and you're giving it from a place where you love them and you want the best for them, and they are not taking your advice, you need to shut your fucking mouth. Because all you're doing is devaluing your own word. That's all you're doing. That's it. And if people aren't asking you for help and they don't actually want to get better, there's nothing you can say that's going to help them get better.
Yeah.
It's the whole responsibility thing. It comes back to the same thing. Is if people are going to come, like, a lot of times, this happens all the time, more times than not, when people ask for help from me, or I'm assuming maybe from you too, I don't know. A lot of times, it's a guy or a girl, doesn't matter. They'll come to me and they'll say, Jay, like, I'm having all these problems, like, and 9 times out of 10, it's, I don't know how to get back in the gym, you know, I want to start getting in shape and start eating right, but, like, I don't know how to do it, like, I don't know why, I just, like, started and then I stopped, and I started and I stopped, and I always ask them, I sit there, I'm like, okay, listen, like, I'm here for you, but if you just want me to listen to you vent, I can do that, but if you actually want help, which is what you're asking for, that's a whole different thing. And then we'll start talking, and inevitably it goes back down to the fact that they don't want help. They just want somebody to listen to them.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing as do not cast pearls before swine, because the more I give advice to people that don't want it and don't take the advice, the more that I devalue my own opinion and devalue my own concepts and philosophies.
Yeah. And another quote that's kind of pretty much the same thing as the cast pearls before swine. It's like the classic, you can take a dog to water, but you cannot make him drink.
100%.
And like going back to what you were just saying, like it's like that's kind of in relationships and just in my experience with women, that's a lot of things. Like when they're venting, they don't want a solution. They just want someone to listen
100%.
and like care about what they're saying.
Be present with them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like on the relationship tangent, like that's another thing about responsibility. Like if you get your heart broken, that's not. It's a lot of, like you can't just blame it on the other person. To some degree, you have to take responsibility for that failure. Like if someone cheated, you're like, maybe I should have seen it sooner, or maybe my perspective is wrong in terms of this heartbreak, or maybe you're trying to suppress it.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes you just need to feel that pain.
Yeah.
And let it out.
A big the thing that I immediately thought of kind of ties back to the Viktor Frankl thing. Is like he was in the concentration camp, right? And the whole time he was there, his question to himself wasn't, why is Hitler doing this? Why is this way? Why is the world this way? His question was, what did I do to contribute to me being in here? In a concentration camp in the Holocaust, he asked himself, where am I at fault? And he figured it out, where he was at fault. And that's the same thing with relationships. And it sounds like, if you clip this and you just get what I'm saying right here, it's going to sound like I'm a fucking lunatic. But if you get cheated on, you need to take 100%
Facts.
responsibility for it. 100, not 99, not 76, 100%. Because if you can't understand where you went wrong to be in a relationship that someone's going to cheat on you, then you are never going to fix it. If you're going to bring your same shit to another table. This is a conversation I have all the time. The huge thing, especially with kids our age, is jealousy, right?
Yeah.
You'll see people, oh, I don't want you going out to the club without me. I don't want you wearing that. Like, you can't talk to him. Stop talking to that person. Block them. It's all this bullshit. And then they'll break up because it's a toxic relationship, which it is. But then they'll move on to another relationship and say, fuck that girl. Like she just was controlling or whatever. Fuck that guy. Like, he just didn't want me to wear this and this because he was insecure. It's like, first of all, the question is always, okay, if you settle for a human being like that, then what makes you think you're worth anything better than that?
Exactly.
But secondly, if you're going to place all the blame on them, then you're never going to fix where you went wrong, and then your wrongdoings, whether it's your insecurity or your need, if it's anger, if it's jealousy, or whatever it is, if it's inside of you and you don't fucking fix that, you're going to bring your same shit to another table, to another relationship, to another person. You're going to run into the same problems over and over and over again until you decide maybe it's not, it's fucking me. Mm-hmm. And it's always the problem.
Yeah.
Let them know!
And it's like, that's wholly what it is. And it's like, going back to that jealousy thing, it's like if there's no trust in a relationship, what are you fucking doing? Yeah. What are you doing, man? It's you gotta wise up. It's like if you don't trust your partner, like what's going on? And it's like additionally, like dude, Keanu Reeves had a great quote, and it was just, it was like the Drew Barrymore show or something, and she was like I'm a lover, not a fighter, and Keanu Reeves was like, no, if you're a lover, you have to be a fighter, because if you don't fight for your love, what kind of love do you have?
Damn.
And it's like shit.
Yeah.
But it's like it's the truth. It's like, and I was talking to one of my friends about this, and he was just like, I don't know if I have the capacity to love because I have so many problems, and like he is in part taking responsibility for that. But it's like he still has development to do, and everybody has development to do.
Right.
It's like, and like this semester I've been aggressively pursuing like. Yesterday I set a ceiling. Let's smash it tomorrow. Yeah. Like, on our episode about perseverance, we did record that in my room, and I sleep with a tapestry with the Japanese kanji for destroy, and it's like that's what I attribute to every day. I wake up next to that, and it's like shatter the ceiling every day, You know, there's always improvements that can be done. Perfection is a false idea, but the pursuit of it is not unworthy. It's not dishonorable.
100%.
Obsession with perfection can be corrupted, but if it is pure and that pursuit is honest and I suppose ruthless, that is something special that you should cherish. Like I am ruthlessly ambitious,
Right.
you know, and it's like I'm not tied down to a certain plan. You know, you make plans, you organize, but you gotta organize but be able to improvise. And the big thing about that is, you know, once again, it's like coming down to discipline and responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the gym 5 days a week, and I make time for it, unless there's circumstances out of my control.
Of course.
But, you know, it's important that the effort is there. And it's like, I've been ahead in school, you know, I'm using my time wisely,
Right.
but additionally, like, I'll go back to the Doc Ock quote. I think I said this in one of the episodes of the School of Hard Knocks, driving and ranting in my car. But it's like, you know, and knowledge and intelligence is a gift, and it should be used for the good of mankind. Like, it's not a privilege, it's a gift.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're lazy and, you know, you're not living up to your potential, you're wasting your gifts.
Yeah.
And I rewatching that movie, it was like, you know, Spider-Man 2, it's like, it's time to stop wasting my gifts.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's a big part of like responsibility and self-awareness. You know, you need to recognize what you have, why you have it, and what are you going to do with it.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
One thing I wanted to touch on real quick was when you were talking about like the jealousy in relationships, and you're like, if you don't have trust, you shouldn't be in a relationship. 100% agree. I think the other thing that I think when it comes to relationships with jealousy, especially like kids our age that are in relationships and they're controlling, which again comes from jealousy, it's number one, a lack of trust. If you don't trust them, obviously you're gonna fucking be pissed off when they go out because you don't trust them. You don't trust them to make the right decisions. But the second thing comes from insecurity.
Oh, absolutely.
Trust and insecurity are the only two reasons why you're going to feel the need to control someone. Why you're going to feel the need to be with them every time they go out. I get the question all the time. Jay, you're telling me right now you'd be fine if your girl went out to a bar and her ex-boyfriend was there and there's a ton of guys hitting on her there. And I'm like, yeah. Like, it's not bullshit. It's because A, trust, but B, I'm secure with who I am. I have self-confidence. I have self-love. And so what does that mean? That means in its essence is that I would be okay alone. I don't need anybody.
Absolutely.
Because when you don't have self-confidence, self-love, self-respect, whatever you want to put the words to it, when you don't have that, you wouldn't be okay alone. Because your sense of self-worth is now tied to a relationship. And when your sense of self-worth is tied to a relationship, you will do anything in your power to make sure that that person does nothing to jeopardize that relationship.
Yeah, and like I said this in a podcast a while ago, don't make your purpose a person. Because people change.
Yeah.
And your purpose should be iron, you know? It should be stone. It should be concrete. It should be something that you will, without a doubt, never give up.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't, once again, it's like, you need to love your dream. If you don't fight for your love, what kind of love do you have?
Right.
And it's like, that's another thing I've been, you know, kind of realizing, like, in my kind of relationships. It's like, when I consider, like, I know my worth. And, you know, a lot of people can't afford me. Yeah. And it's like,
I'm priceless.
I wouldn't go that far. But, you know, it's like, I feel like there's one question that will kind of define, I guess, who I share my heart with. And it's like, what do you want most in the world? What is your dream?
Right.
And, you know, I'll kind of judge them on that answer. Because it's like, if you give me something superficial like money, fame, status, it's like, oh, you're false.
Yeah.
Because it's like, these pursuits are hollow. And I said this in the purpose episode as well. but it's like it doesn't have to necessarily come out of altruism. It needs to come out of discipline. And it's like, you know, you're putting your faith into these, I guess, not quite empty, but superficial concepts.
Empty, bro.
Yeah.
Fucking empty.
But
There's no end goal.
Yeah,
There's no fulfillment.
because like you see all these, like, look at the suicide rate. Like, all these rich guys, they think when they get to the top they're gonna be happy, but money can't fucking buy happiness. It can buy lifestyle, it can buy leniency, to some degree it can even buy women.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Not to some degree, to a high.
yeah,
You
but
got
it's,
money, you're bagging hoes, man. I'm just telling you. But no, I do it.
but yeah, it's like, what do you have?
Yeah.
You have no purpose.
Right.
And it's like Joe Rogan said this, and I love this quote. It's like, people complain about the problems. And it's like, when you do all this time complaining, you could instead be hustling.
100%.
And I'm like, that's what I want to aspire to be.
Like, we touched on so much stuff in regards to relationships, and it's one of the big things is Ralph Smart, another great quote he says, he's like, why settle for a tight squeeze when you can have a perfect fit, you know? And it's like, it's so
good.
true, man. It's like,
Damn.
and don't get me wrong, don't get me
Damn.
wrong. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, you're never going to find
like
that.
that.
And then you're never going to find, like, that perfect individual. Like, obviously, there's individuals out there that I guess you guys are so similar, but you both have your shit, right?
Yeah.
You both have your issues, and you both got to get through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not both the same person, even though you could be extremely similar. And Sadhguru, I'm sure you're aware of him, said this yesterday on he has like shorts on his Instagram or whatever, like pretty much how like that exact idea, how you're never gonna find that perfect individual, and so stop. And like, even though you're searching for that perfect fit, you got to have some type of leeway and understanding that each and every single individual, like we touched on this before, is going to have their shit, and you have to be consciously aware and willing to work with them on that. And this could be not even boyfriend girlfriend type of things. This could be a friendship. This could be mom and dad, mom and dad, fucking son. Yes, exactly. Any type of relationship. If you have that ability to take a step back and kind of like, as you were touched on, it was like, even though they may be projecting onto you super like negativity, and like maybe they're like criticizing the way you look or just saying some really just not objective type of stuff, right? It's very personal, and you can tell they're projecting a lot of negativity, and that's most likely coming from a source of negativity within them that they have not fixed yet.
Right.
And so with that, you can kind of, if you have that understanding and awareness that you yourself have that within you, meaning that like whenever you get swayed by your emotions, whenever you get swayed by your own opinions, or like let's just say someone says something to you that makes you feel a certain type of way, and you want to react in a certain type of way to get like some type of revenge on them, if you're able to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, I don't have to act based on my emotions. I can act based on logic, and I can take a step back with rationale and observe my emotions as they come, and then over time I can return to that natural state that I've always been in. And that, for me, I've noticed in my relationships, I've only been in like fucking 2 girlfriend boyfriend type of relationships, but just in friendships in general, like I have like for instance, Cole is on a carnivore diet, right? Or well, he was on a carnivore diet, and he's on that end of the spectrum. I am very close to veganism, so you can see the contrast there, right? And so in general, people have different types of perspectives in you.
Right.
And we said this in the last episode, not everyone's going to see the same way as you, even though you may think they see it the same way as you. And so with being able to have a consideration of perspectives, with allowing individuals to have their shit, realize they're not perfect, right? Their imperfections are perfections. If you want to get into that, we can, but
Masterpiece and work in progress.
masterpiece and work in progress at the same time. But you have to have that consideration and willingness to work with people, even though it may be hard.
Right. Yeah. I like that.
All right, guys, we're closing out the episode now. No.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you said masterpiece in progress.
Yeah, the masterpiece and the work in progress. Like at the same, and that's
I've never
all
heard it
you.
that way.
So essentially, this is like, I think I actually touched on this when we talked for the first time. Essentially, the only thing that tells you that something's wrong about you is a belief, right? And it's a man-made belief. And so in essence, there are no beliefs. In essence, they're like within our level of understanding of reality, right? We, through concepts, do not have a complete understanding of the reality around us, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So with that, we can take a step back and realize that these beliefs are subjective, right? And when we have these subjective beliefs, and they're portrayed onto us, it appears as though they're objective, right? And so in that instance, like, I could say I'm ugly as shit. Like, some people could look at me and say I'm ugly as shit. Other people could look at me and be like, oh, wow, Cal, you're a really good-looking dude, right? But what really am I?
Everyone says you're a good-looking dude.
Okay, well, fuck what they say for a second, all right? Fuck what they say for a second, all right? So in different people's eyes, right, I have a different label. So
Right.
according to them, right? But really, that belief isn't there if they're not there. So independent of their mind, right? So let's just say everyone took their attention off that belief for 1 second. That belief does not exist, right? And so in essence, that belief that's telling you that you're wrong, it's not really there.
Right.
And so you're actually, as you are within this moment, here and now, whole and complete, no matter what, unconditionally, right? And we're not saying right, we're not saying wrong, we're not telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do, right? You are whole and complete at this moment. And where the work in progress comes in is that area that we are talking about right now, self-beliefs, and we're moving towards a more preferable state. So that's what we mean. And I know I just gave a fucking spiel, all right? And I could easily understand if people would not understand that. I am definitely not the best person to explain that, and I'm sure I could be explained in a much better way.
The way that I always thought about it is there's two things that came to mind. The first thing was you're perfect as you are now, but the version of you that you are right now is not enough for tomorrow or next month or next year.
Savage.
You know what I mean? Who you are right now is perfect, regardless if you've missed opportunities or there's missed potential or whatever it is. You're perfect as you are right now because you are what you are right now. Because it is what it is. Like,
Oh, yeah, there you go, yeah. It is what it is. It is what it is. Slogan.
the other thing that made me think of is it's a quote from Ed Milet. He talks about blissful dissatisfaction, right? And a lot of people think about when you look at someone like David Goggins, right? Get after it. Wake up at 4 a.m.
Stay hard.
Work out. Stay hard. Right.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
But people will look at that and be like,
Deep in the gutter.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
some people look at that, and some people are actually in it. I was kind of like that, where I'm just miserable because I'm so focused on what I'm not and what I want to be, and that cognitive dissonance between who I am and who I want to be. That you feel that as pain, right? That's why when you hang around with someone who's a fucking baller, someone who's ripped the fuck up, has a lot of money, has fulfillment, is happy, is contributing in amazing ways, you feel that need, like, fuck, like, I need to get there. I need to, like, it's not that you want to be them, but you feel that as judgment because you should, because you aspire to be more than you are now. But people misunderstand the fact that you could still have bliss in the moment, but be dissatisfied with where you're at. Because if you are working on yourself, and if you are putting in what your 100% is, you experience the bliss of life, of especially when you're present in the moment too, right? Like that, it plays a huge role, because if you're only in the future, you're not focusing on your mind is not where you are now and who you are now. You're always going to be focusing on what you should be getting, what you're going to transform yourself into, or what you could have been, or what you should have been, or what you should have done. But when you're present in the moment and you're continually working on yourself and who you are, there's this bliss of life that you just continually feel every single day. And it doesn't mean that you're satisfied with who you are. It doesn't mean that you're not hungry for more. It doesn't mean that you're going to stop working out, stop working on yourself. It just means that there's bliss with who you are and where you're at in life, and that you're continually making progress. But there's no reason to experience pain throughout the whole entire process. There's no reason for it. And so that's where the whole blissful dissatisfaction
Interesting.
kind of came from.
I like that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, but I think that's very interesting. Good.
It was technically bad.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, for your class. Yeah, I think like a blissful dissatisfaction. I really like that type of way of saying it. And when I first heard it, I was like, wait a minute, what? But yeah, it's like, yeah, it's very interesting because, like, whenever we get somewhere, I was literally just saying this in the last episode. like, no matter how far we get, right, no matter what we accumulate, sure, it could be fucking amazing that for a short amount of time, but over time, you're going to get used to it. It's going to be normalized, and you're going to be like, what the fuck is next? And then you turn your attention to the future, and you start stressing about, like, take fucking Tom Brady, for example, right? Like, I mean, like, dude has 7 fucking rings in the NFL, and he's like, I'm going for the 8th. And it's just like, when, and he's just not satisfied. I mean, like, obviously he's retired now, but, like, it was just like, it's that never-ending chase. But once again, Cole touched on this before. It's like, what grounds you, right? What the fuck do you have that you can always rely on that isn't necessarily, you're not necessarily chasing after it because it's always been there, right? And so with that, you can kind of take a step back and continue to work on yourself, right? Become better in different areas, right? Like my passion for right now is becoming a better videographer, right? Like a better cinematographer. And I know I'm not perfect. I know I got a long way to fucking go. But
working at the right
yeah, but like we're making progress, right? Like I just got a video editing position. I like content creator position, that's like the official title. But I know right now I'm not like stressing about it. Like I know that will happen over time as long as you just keep putting in the effort, right? Putting that first foot forward. Like, and obviously you're gonna have to step into the unknown, right? Step into the uncomfortable at times, or really push yourself a lot. And that's a big thing too that I found that is very conflicted with like if you want to stay in that being mindset, right? And then you want to transfer over to the doing mindset. If you can allow, because like that beingness can be the underlying can underlie the doing, right? And it's in a sense that like when you're doing things, you can still have like that kind of peaceful state within you. And I think with that is in essence is kind of like that. Not exactly, but it's very similar to that blissful dissatisfaction.
100%.
Yeah. So, I think. Do you think in your own experience, like, what have you observed about like blissful dissatisfaction within your own life?
I mean, number one is definitely presence, being in the present moment. Because if you're always focused on where you're going, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, the body you want to have, the girl you want to date, all these things, like, and don't get me wrong, all those things are great, but if your mind is always there, then where your feet are is never a real moment. You've never actually experienced a single thing. If everything's just what you want, if everything's is just what you're going after, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't go after what it is. It just means that you set the goal and then you leave it there. And then you focus on where you are right now, right? If you want to climb the mountain, you're not staring at the peak the whole time. You're on that step. Because if you don't look at each step of the process, you're missing the process, right? And my big thing is like, that's where happiness comes from. It's happiness comes from progress, right? Again, like if you've achieved some certain goal, like hitting 225 on bench, right?
I'll get back there.
How long did it feel? How long did you feel amazing for after you hit 225? A day? A week?
Yeah, literally like a day.
A month?
Yeah.
Definitely not longer than a month, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's because that's not what makes you happy. What makes you happy is making progress towards it.
Yeah.
Hitting 225 isn't going to be much more exciting. You're not going to get that dopamine release like much more than going from 125 to 130 because it's the progress that makes you happy, not the goal. And that's my whole thing is like, if you're not present in the moment when you're making the progress, you're missing the whole fucking point. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly it. Like we're so fixated on the end goal, right? That it like, and don't get me wrong, like we're so concerned about the end goal, right? And but along that process of getting to that end goal, that's where the real joy comes from.
100%.
Yeah,
dude.
and I think when we don't recognize that, and like even though like let's just say like you're weightlifting, right, and your goal is 225,
Right.
and then you eventually hit it, and then you're like, okay, what's next? And then because obviously as you go up in weight, it's going to get harder and harder and harder to to add strength gains
until it gets easier.
Until it gets easier. Yeah. But that you just have that like you've never very consciously recognized that like the process and how it takes longer and longer and longer to get better, right? Because like as you, sure, it's like it's just the basic premise of working out, right? You get the newbie gains to start off with, and then it's slow and steady progression from there.
Right.
And then when you see maybe your bicep got a little bit bigger in the mirror, like fucking 6 months after, you know, being on a steady bulk, you're like, damn, bro, shit. Like, so yeah, it's like that conscious recognition, like, yeah, you're working towards that goal, but you gotta enjoy the moment, man. You know, you gotta be here, you gotta be now, and enjoy what the fuck you're doing. So
yeah, and like that's another big thing. It's like me when I started working out, I had the greatest motivation, which was, my heart has just been broken. It's time to get in the gym. And, like, let me tell you, the newbie gains were spec-fucking-tacular.
Yeah.
I was 165 and cut the fuck up. And, like, afterwards, like, you know, it tapered off, but I was never insecure about my body.
Right.
Like, you know, height, you know, fucking Johnson size, whatever, you know, and it's like moving forward. Like I made a lot of progress just last year, like because I was just like my diet was on point. Like every time I come back from the gym, I have a breakfast burrito, like whatever, at like 9 p.m. or something. You know, it's like, and it was just like eggs, bacon, a little bit of cheese, and a tortilla, and it was just like every day, and that's like a pack of protein. It's good for you. Because I only eat the egg whites, but beside the point, you know, I was in the gym, I was going after it, and just that, you know, moving forward, like, it was a lot of growth happened, like, physically, and I was just, like, kept going, and now I'm plateauing, but it's not a bad thing, you know, it's like, I don't have any, I guess, aspiration to be just fucking huge, you know, like, some of the guys in the gym are fucking massive, but, like, I don't have aspirations to be there. Like I always say to people, like I train for function, not physique.
Right.
So you know, because I'm a martial artist and I want to be able to, you know, fight as effectively as I can, and that's my source of motivation. Like, if I were to rank my, I guess, purposes, it would be, you know, becoming that FBI agent and helping people that way, and then martial arts and becoming like the best warrior I guess I could be, just to, and you know, purify myself through the art, because it's like Miyamoto Musashi said it the best. It's like once you begin to know the way broadly, you will see it on things. And for me, martial arts is the way. You know, it's like to be, you know, to be like a blade. You know, like, and that's kind of what I've been doing lately. It's like I go like in the morning, cold shower. And then I go to work out, hammering the steel. And then when I get, you know, take my second shower, I'm blasting myself with heat. It's like heat the metal, hammer it, cool it down every day, sharper, you know. And my sensei always says, iron sharpens iron and man sharpens man. And it's like, but truly the sword is sharpening itself, because it is not the opponent that is your, I suppose, catalyst for growth. It is you. It is not about, and it's like, what I've discovered in my life is like, you know, moments become memories and people become lessons sometimes. And that's a big thing with relationships. And it's like, what have I learned? You know, and it's a big thing where it's like, in martial arts and just really anything in general, it's like, give me something memorable, something that will make me better, something that I can use, you know, for that pursuit of perfection. And it's like, one thing I always say is, like, I pride myself on my word. You know, if I say I'm going to do something, it's going to get done. Right. It may not get done today or tomorrow, but it's going to get done. And speaking of masculinity, as like in the day and age, it's like we've been told as men that it's bad, you know, by like the media, like toxic masculinity, and it's like, you know, I could be viewed as toxically masculine just because of how I view things, how I pursue things, and it's like going forward, it was like, you know, I stopped kind of following the pack, you know, and it's like masculinity is not a bad thing, and like realistically, it's gonna come off as a little toxic, but it's like when shit hits the fan, you're not gonna go looking for a feminist, realistically, but it's like, as a man, I carry myself with honor as much as I can because it's very important to me. And once again, it's a byproduct of my martial arts background. But it's like I'm trying to align myself with the mentality and philosophy of a samurai. It's about, pursuing the way and, carrying yourself with a certain respect for yourself and carrying that same respect for others, carrying that responsibility to better others. It's like, once again, with Miyamoto Musashi, he was saying, like, a warrior, the way of the warrior is twofold, the way of the pen and the sword, and you must have a taste for both. And additionally, like, this is coming from the greatest swordsman of all time. He fought in 50 duels to the death and never lost. It's like, and a lot of, he's a good example, like, or at least in the fiction, like, there was a fictionalization of a book called Musashi, and in that book, he had to sacrifice the girl he loved in pursuit of mastery. And that's, sacrifices are going to be a part of the journey, but you must decide what is truly important to you. And, he chose the way of the sword. And that's another thing about, the philosophy of the samurai. There is, one cannot serve two masters. And the same is with, one must be of singular mind. Because, a mind divided is a house divided. Because, you can't be conflicted between serving one lord or another. And oftentimes that lord is a purpose, and it's like you must be of singular mind in pursuit of your goal, whatever that happens to be. And, I kind of move forward with that mentality every day. It's like, I said this in the job interview for, like, the gym. It was like, they asked me, what motivates you? And I told them honestly, I'm like, my dream of becoming an FBI agent. When I feel myself down in the dumps, when I feel myself weakened by external, factors, by pressure coming in on me, I think of the mission. And I'm like, if I fail now, I will never reach that goal. So I need to move forward, accept responsibility for my failures, accept responsibility for the pressure I have and the stress that I have allowed to cloud my vision. It divide my mind and my focus and realign it with the way and pursue it with everything that I have.
Okay. One thing that you touched on that I really liked was when you were talking about how you always keep your word to yourself, right? You tell yourself you're gonna wake up at this time, you're up. It's a cold shower, then it's the gym, then it's the hot shower, and it's that process. And it's not even necessarily that you did it that one day. It's the fact that you're doing it every single day. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether or not you know this consciously, but that's where your self-confidence comes from.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's where self-confidence comes from in anything, in any aspect of life at all.
Discipline and commitment.
Yeah, well, I just think it comes from keeping your word with yourself consistently, right? Like, if you tell yourself that you're going to make your bed every morning, and you make your bed every morning, you've kept your word with yourself enough times, that's where you get that confidence from, right? And that's why I hate this whole, like, whether it's body positivity or any of this bullshit, like, it's like, it's portraying the underlying message that self-confidence and self-respect and self-love should be there. Which is bullshit. It's like, that shit is earned. And it's earned every single day.
Yeah, privilege.
If you stop going and doing judo and jiu-jitsu, why do you deserve to be a confident fighter? You shouldn't be a confident fighter. If you stop working out and you're out of shape and you stop eating right, you shouldn't be confident in your body because you haven't kept the promises that you've made to yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't deserve to. And that's the same thing with self-confidence. Is like, in any aspect, if you're not keeping those promises that you make to yourself on a consistent basis, you're never going to feel that self-confidence. And if you say you do, it's a load of bullshit, and you know you're lying to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's like the key fundamental right there. Like, in other words, what you're saying is preparation, right? Like, you got to prepare, man. Like, if you're like, I love that analogy you use. Like, how can you be a good fighter if you haven't fucking like prepared at all? Like, and don't get me wrong, there's some dudes that can naturally scrap, right? But let's just say you're preparing for a fight with like Conor McGregor, and I know Conor McGregor on the level of UFC right now is fucking garbage, okay? But like, he's better than fucking 99.99% of the average dude, okay? Like, I'm sure Cole could get in there and be okay, but like, I'm sure. Yeah. It would still be a fight, like, there's no doubt about it. But, yeah, like, preparation, man, it's, once again, like making your bed every single morning, right? There's a book about that. It's a great book, by the way.
Make your bed?
Yeah, make your bed. Oh, yeah, it's a good.
Was that from Jordan Peterson?
I don't know.
No,
Some
it's-
army guy.
Army General.
Yeah.
It's-
Oh,
Yeah,
Jocko Willink, I think.
No.
No, it was yeah, but regardless, it's like once you it's like setting those habits into motion, right? And it's like once the first like to create a habit, it takes like 27 days, 3 weeks around there.
It's actually a myth, but keep going.
All
touch on
right,
that
cool.
after. I'll touch on
All right, guys, I'm out here. Misinformation. No. All right, whatever. But anyways, so anyway, if you want to like change a habit, right? That first choice of like, so for instance, like I want to get off dairy, right? For me, I was like putting down the blue cheese was not fucking easy because like blue cheese. Okay, listen, I know it's a subjective thing. Oh, but yeah, the blue cheese is fucking go to
I've
right.
never heard someone say
Yeah.
dairy. I just couldn't give up the blue cheese.
I'm just using it as an example.
Give up this thing that has actual fucking mold
All right,
on
listen.
it.
I didn't come here to get slandered. All right, yeah. So like that, when you first want to take that change, right? And I'll use a different example. Say for instance, you want to start reducing your stress, right? Or you want to take more care of yourself, and you're like, man, I'm really scared to go to the gym, but you know, there's other people there. They're going to judge me. They're going to care about what I think. And I'm sure we've all been there. You know, like when we first went to the gym, we always think there's going to be a guy with binoculars staring at you the whole time. But, you know, that's obviously not the case. No one fucking cares.
Yeah.
As Cole said in his short, right? No one fucking cares.
Yeah, they'll be pissed if you try to interact with them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
everybody's encountered the old man that tries to give you lifting tips. I used to bench 350 in high school. You know, it's all that bullshit. And it's like, you know, I said this in the fucking short, and I'll say it again. It's like, it's you. It's the simplicity that makes it beautiful, and it's the same thing as like with martial arts. But you know, it's you, not you versus the weights. It's you versus you. The weights are a vessel for your growth, you know, and you have to stop lying to yourself that it's like it's everybody else that's fucking, you know, being an asshole, or it's like they're the reasons why I can't be better, you know. And it's like in the gym, it's you and the weights and whatever music you got in your ears. You need to accept that. You need to accept responsibility for your own growth. You know, like I said this before, and it's like sometimes the gym carries people out of a bad place. It certainly got me out of a bad place. But the proverb I like to use, you know, and this is I don't know if this has been said online, but I just know this is what I came up with. It's like, for those who wish to be free of pain, find your peace in the house of gains. And it's like, the same applies. It is like, though the barbell may be cold externally, it will help you grow internally. And it's like, it's not, you know, there's no enemy other than who you were yesterday.
And yeah, I think it's true. Like making that transition to like whatever thing you want to start doing, and like that first decision to be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then you actually do it, you follow through on your word. That first time you do it is the hardest time. At least I found in my own experience, and like I'm sure I've heard other people say as well. And then every single time you do it after that, it gets easier and easier and easier. And like obviously there's going to be challenges. Obviously there's going to be, you know, shit that gets in the way. You're going to slip up. You know, you're going to relapse. But yeah, like, and then over time it just becomes normative. It just becomes natural, right? Like I get up every single morning and make my bed. Like there's no question about that, right? Yeah, exactly. Then I go right to the gym. You know, like obviously I gotta switch things around now, but like it's really like that fundamental of who you are, right? And Cole and I touch on this a lot. It's like what you see out there is a direct reflection of what's going on in here,
100%.
right? And it's like you're not gonna. It's like the law of attraction. You're not gonna attract what you want. You're gonna attract what you are.
Yeah.
And that's a fucking big thing. And what you are is your habits, right? That foundation of, when I say habits, it means physical habits, it means thinking habits, it means habits you have in every single situation. Like, how is your subconscious mind, right? Like, how are you programming your subconscious mind through your conscious mind? What's your mental diet like? What's your physical diet like? What the fuck are you focusing on?
What are you taking in on social media?
Exactly. Like, all these different types of questions. It's like people just mindlessly go about on Instagram, YouTube, social media, and in their life in general, and wonder why their life is so shit. Like, dude, it's right there in front of them.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just... We touched on this in our own conversation. Like, just be conscious of your own consciousness. And what I mean by that is be aware of your own awareness. Yeah. And you can watch where your attention is going and like what habits you have.
Where your focus lies.
Exactly. And then you can start, obviously it's going to be hard to make those changes that you want to happen.
Yeah, and like you said, it's habit. And another thing is, like, I forget where I read this, but it was, another samurai text or something, but it was, excellence is nothing but pure habit. And it's like, that is the most true thing on the planet. It's like, like you said, if you don't keep your word to yourself, what is the value of your word? And you won't keep your word to other people. And like, as a man, I feel like that is the most valuable thing. Your word should be your currency. Even though talk is cheap and your actions will speak louder than your words, it is important that your words are backed up by your actions. If you make a prompt, like my ex-girlfriend, she didn't believe in promises because she had been lied to so many times, and it's like wow. And she thought like the whole me being like my word was bullshit. And
that's the whole thing of bringing your same shit to another table.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, when I make a promise, I fucking keep it.
Yeah.
And it's like, people look at me a different way because they understand that I'm not trying to bullshit them.
That's where confidence comes from. It's the same thing. It's like, if you look at the greatest athletes of all time, you look at Steph Curry.
Fucking Jordan.
Yeah, if you look at Michael Jordan, why do people have so much confidence in Michael Jordan? Not even necessarily why does Michael Jordan have confidence in himself. It's like people have confidence in him because he consistently does what he says he's going to do. He says he's going to be the fucking best player in the world. He's the goddamn best player in the world, and he does it over and over and over again. Yeah.
Facts. Yeah, and I think that's a good place to end it. Unless you guys wanted to say something else, I could obviously cut this out. Yeah, I think...
I got more to say.
So, final concluding thoughts. I think we touched on a whole range of topics, including self-growth and how... Obviously, it's not going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be a steady journey. It's going to be a fucking shaky-ass ride.
It will be a
if you got the will, you got the effort to put in, and the people around you to help you on that journey... You best believe you're on the right path, and that path is not the same for everyone by any means. So, does anybody else have any final concluding thoughts they'd like to say?
I got nothing.
Follow Conscious Cal on YouTube.
Follow my subscribe to my OnlyFans. No, I'm playing. But yeah, with all
that's where the real content is.
Oh yeah, you gotta pay for that, man. But yeah, with all that being said, love yourself because I love you, and we're clocking out, baby. So we're out of here.
Yes.
Always a pleasure.